Okay, we talked about electrical components, or not components, but types of circuits. Now we're going to go into the SIFT Army Aviation information.
Okay.
Okay. So, rotary wing aviation. What are the four basic forces of flight?
We have lift and gravity, thrust and drag.
Okay, very good. What are the major components of a rotary wing aircraft?
Major components, so you have the hub, the rotor, the tail rotor.
Of the helicopter, of the rotorcraft. So you're talking about a rotor system.
You're just looking for the overall aircraft then?
Yeah, man.
Okay, so we got the main rotor on the top, tail rotor on the back, got the cockpit, fuselage, depending on you got your engines and then your landing gears.
Power plants. We don't say engines, we say power plant.
Okay, thanks for the verification.
All right. Landing gear, power plants, fuselage, transmission. We didn't say transmission, did we?
Not transmission.
Okay. Does every helicopter have an anti-torque rotor?
No, I don't believe so.
Okay.
Well, no, that would be the tail rotor, wouldn't it?
Yeah. In other words, are there any helicopters without any anti-torque rotors?
Well, technically, yeah, because there are. I mean, you have the Chinook that's one that doesn't even have a tail rotor, and you have some that have. Oh man, it's like that new Sky Raider that's coming out. It's got the dual main rotors, and then the propeller rotor on the back of the aircraft as well.
Okay, so how do they get away with that? Take the
My understanding is you just get extra lift, more stabilization from. Like I know in the Chinook, because it has an extra rotor in the back, it doesn't create the torquing effect. And when you have the double stack rotors, you have one rotor that goes one direction, you have another rotor that goes the other direction, and it counteracts the torque, correct?
Right. So we could have one going this way, and we're okay. We won't need a tail rotor if we have another rotor going this way.
Correct.
All right. So the forces will balance each other out. You could have a fenestron, which your main helicopter rotor would be rotating that way, and then out of your tail, it would be blowing air from the turbine and counteracting. Or you can have coaxial rotors, one rotor on top of the other.
Yeah.
One going that way, one going that way. You won't need a tail rotor. Okay. Can you explain to me dissymmetry of lift?
Dissymmetry of lift, that would be that's going to be when you're hovering and you have that tendency because of your torque to drift to one side of your hover, and you have to be able to counteract it and be able to bring it back over.
No, that's translating tendency. Dissymmetry of lift. So when I'm talking about dissymmetry, what is symmetry?
Symmetry is it being equal.
Balance.
Equality. Yeah,
balance. So when I say dissymmetry of lift, what is the main thing that provides lift in the helicopter?
That'd be the rotor.
The rotor. So that's probably where there's going to be an imbalance somewhere, right?
Correct.
So when we talk about the symmetry of lift, it is the unequal lift between the advancing and the retreating halves of the rotor disc.
Correct. Okay.
That is the symmetry of lift.
More or less than the front.
Main rotor disc, half. This is the advancing side. This is the retreating side. And then here's the hub. So there's going to be unequal lift. What side is going to give me the greater lift?
That'd be the advancing side.
The advancing side. And that'd be this side. And this side is going to give me the least. So there's unequal lift. All right. So we have to compensate. How do we compensate? Any ideas about that?
Well, when you know that, when you use the anti-torque pedals to do that, I mean, that's a result of the pushing. No, the tail rotors are counteracted.
All right. So it should be rolling left, shouldn't it?
Yeah, because I mean, you're going to get more torque on the right side.
If we get more lift on this side and this side, it should roll to the left.
You basically have to apply pressure on the stick back to the right to help counteract that, correct?
Yeah. No, how they counteract that is it's a combination of blade it's a combination of blade flapping and stuff. It's engineered into there. All right. So as far as your testing purposes and everything, you want to just know what it is. When we talk about, dissymmetry of lift, you have to understand in the main rotor disc that when the rotor comes around to this side to the advancing side, it's producing more lift than on the left or retreating disc. And that's pretty much the extent that, in all the debriefs that I've seen, that they've really gone into it. Just understanding what that is. Now, what you were talking about was translating tendency, when the helicopter's just kind of just sitting there in a hover over a certain point, and you're still going to have this anti-torque rotor, and I'm sorry, I'm spinning the main rotor blade the wrong way. All right, so if the blade is spinning this way, the torque is going to make it want to go this way, but our anti-torque pedal or rotor, or tail rotor counterbalances that, stabilizes, so we just get a slow drift in that direction because of it. Now what can happen is sometimes they tilt the mast a little bit, to make it kind of grab that way a little bit to counterbalance it, depending on the design of the helicopter. But that is translating tendency. All right. And there's a difference between translating tendency and translational lift, which we will talk about. All right, 5 major components. Oh, main rotor systems. How many types of main rotor systems are there, and what are they?
We have, we have 3 main rotor systems. I know one is essentially fixed where the rotor blades are, they can't move.
Okay, so let's call that rigid. Let's call that rigid.
Yeah, we have rigid, semi-rigid, and then damn, the other one's escaping me right now. And I know that's the one where you can allows the blades to kind of sink down and out.
All right, let's go with fully articulated. So rigid, semi-rigid, and fully articulated main rotor systems.
And I know the rigid we only have, it only has the ability to, correct me if I'm wrong, it's lead. Semi-rigid is lead and lag. And the fully articulated will do both of those and then flat, correct?
Pause.
Yeah.
Rigid will flex. It will flex. It will flex. And then in the other two, you know, you get the lead lag or flapping. But the fully articulated does a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
What are the 3 axes of rotation?
Now we have horizontal, vertical, and then damn it. No, it's X, Y, and Z. You have the horizontal, which is your yaw, vertical, which is your pitch, and lateral, which is your roll.
Okay. Longitudinal, vertical, lateral. All right, so let's just say we had our airplane here. There's a tail. There's a nose. All right, so we have our lateral axis. We have our longitudinal. And vertical, not horizontal. All right. So longitudinal, lateral, vertical, axes when we say plural. Singular, we say axis. Now, what are the movements about these axes?
Well, with your vertical, that's what your pitch control is going to be as you move up and down.
Well, no. See, vertical goes straight down. So
no, lateral is what goes.
So vertical is the axis is going straight up and down, and so we would yaw above vertical. All right. So
our lateral is where we get our pitch out of, and our longitude is where we roll out of.
Okay. So our vertical axis we can yaw using our anti-torque pedals, right?
Mm-hmm.
The nose up, nose down would come from the cyclic, and the roll would also come from the cyclic.
Yeah.
All right. All right. What is the primary purpose of the tail rotor system?
Primary tail rotor, that's the it's like we were talking about, it's the anti-torque device on the helicopter that prevents the aircraft from torquing or rotating in one direction. It's like what we were talking about with the dissymmetry of lift. As we get more, well, actually, it's to counteract the torquing effect of the propeller moving in one direction. It's going to have a tendency to want to take the aircraft.
Okay, that's too much. That's way too much. That's way too much. What's the purpose of the anti-torque? To counteract torque. That's it.
Okay.
All right. What does NOTAR mean?
What did you say it was?
NOTAR, November, Oscar, Tango, Alpha, Romeo, NOTAR.
I don't remember.
No tail rotor. So NOTAR refers to no tail rotor. So that's when you get that fenestrine type deal going on. The ducted fan thing. Or not ducted fan, but the jet exhaust being redirected in order to NOTAR counteract the torque from the main rotor. I want you to explain to me what coning is, please.
That happens right as initial takeoff, where blades are starting to, essentially, as they start to rotate, they kind of like curve up as they start to add more lift through them.
Okay, pause. Do they increase, expand, or contract the main rotor disc?
They would contract.
Okay, so it'd make it smaller.
Yes.
Okay. Now, what are the forces that are making coning occur? I just got to do that, right?
So good. I mean, I respect it. So you get one right. There's got to be a curveball that goes with the ones you get right too.
Yeah, right.
What would be affecting that? If I had to go with that, it'd be lift is affecting that and torque is affecting that.
Well,
correct?
Lift and centrifugal force.
Okay.
So when we go from this to, and I'm exaggerating it, this, all right, centrifugal force is acting outward and lift is acting upward.
Mm-hmm.
So a combination of those two forces are making the coning occur. Okay, what is Bernoulli's principle?
What did you say? I'm kind of broken it out.
What is Bernoulli's principle?
Question that and just keep doing the answer me. So that's basically as we add more as we add more pressure, the flow increase. No. Why can't I remember? I know it's basically as like Bernoulli did it with water running through a pipe, but
okay, what is that apparatus? What is that apparatus called? You said water running through a pipe. Can you tell me the apparatus? What would we call it?
Venturi.
The Venturi tube. Okay. So,
yeah.
What happens when we speed up the flow of water? Where does it speed up at? On the outsides or in the middle?
In the middle.
In the middle. And what happens to the pressure when we speed it up? And it
decreases, correct?
Decreases, yes, it does. So Daniel Bernoulli's principle is as the velocity of a fluid increases, its internal pressure decreases. So sometimes you get lost and everything. Think about that Venturi tube.
Yep.
Because you did. You said, yeah, the Venturi tube. So then you got to think about, well, what happens? Oh, water flows through it. It gets faster in the middle, and the pressure decreases. So as the velocity of a fluid increases, its internal pressure decreases. So sometimes you have to come up with little memory aids or little ways to mentally walk yourself through things. Because you'll be when you're testing, you'll be kind of stressed, and you'll just have to you just have to work it out.
Well, and that's one of the things. That's why I'm not great with test taking, because my mind just gets jumbled sometimes. But you just got to overcome it.
Yeah, and with memory aids, you can, with mnemonic little rules, or not rules, but little memory things. Kind of like with the decimal conversion we talk about. King Henry. King Henry died by drinking chocolate milk. I'm safe. Illness, medication, stress, anxiety, fatigue, emotion. PEMDAS. So, these are just little memory aids to help you when you get under the gun a little bit. All right. Where are the center of gravity limits normally with rotary wing aircraft in relation to the mast?
It's usually like right underneath of it, correct?
A little bit in the front and a little bit behind it. Never like way far out, because that would be a seriously imbalanced condition, very dangerous actually. So, it's normally center. And with the airplane, when we think about our center of lift aerodynamically, where the wing is, or our aerodynamic center, normally the CG falls somewhere like around there.
Yeah.
And so we want that center of gravity to be within those limits. We definitely don't want to be nose heavy or tail heavy. And in the rotary wing aircraft, you don't want to be nose or tail heavy. So, it's just something that you need to think about. But it's pretty much where the lift is centered. We want the center of gravity or all the weight to balance out around there. All right. So rotary wing and fixed wing are very similar like that. All right. Moving right along. What is ground effect?
Ground effect is when, as you start to get closer to the ground, I gotta get through my mental fuse on this one. So I know as you start to get closer to the ground, you get a little bit more feedback from basically your lift from your aircraft.
The next time I ever ask you about ground effect, the first two words I want to come out of your mouth, and you will always remember the interference. What did I say?
Interference. Okay.
The interference. Something is interfering. Ground effect. What's interfering?
The ground.
The ground. All right. So the interference. What's interfering with us? The ground. So normally at altitude, we have a normal upwash, downwash tendency with our rotors or wings in fixed wing aircraft. We have the air molecules kind of rise up to kind of meet the airfoil a little bit, and then when it passes through, they kind of fall off. So there's a normal upwash, downwash, because we have such a nice, good quantity of air below the wing to do that. But this diminishes when we get within one wingspan or one blade span in rotary wing aircraft. Within the ground, we don't have as much air on the bottom, if you would. So we get a reduced upwash, downwash. You follow me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we get a reduced upwash, downwash because the ground is interfering. All right. And as a result, we get the same lift and we get less drag.
Yeah.
And we get less drag. So same amount of lift, less drag gives us the illusion that we're being cushioned when we just have the same amount of lift, less drag. So we get, like, a lot of times we get kind of like a cushioning effect. All right. So what's ground effect? It is the interference. It's the interference of the airflow patterns about the wing, because the ground is interference. So it's the Earth's interference with the airflow patterns about the wing or rotor. So when I say ground effect, your mind's going to go, the interference. What's interfering? The ground. Same lift, less drag.
Yeah.
Because the Earth is in the way. And actually, if you ever by a lake, birds naturally take advantage of this. If you ever see birds flying over the lake, you ever see them just kind of just gliding. Like they flap a little bit and then they just...
Yeah.
Because they're generating lift now. They naturally, instinctively do this. There's no bird school. Like,
yeah.
Ground effect. That's how we do it.
They just do it. They just know to do it.
They just know to do it. All right. Okay. Good. All right. We're going to close with a little bit of